young guy had a pretty amazing road into Formula One. The son of ex-Formula One driver Jos Verstappen, Max, had his name in the stars even before he was in Formula One. He went through the Red Bull Junior program, entered Toro Rosso as one of the youngest Formula One drivers ever, and became the youngest ever Formula One winner at the 2016 Spanish Grand Prix after he was promoted quite controversially to Red Bull. So we covered that in our episode called Trading Places. And today we are going to discuss the big topic, one of the biggest topics that's probably came out after about the Austrian Grand Prix when he took his win this year, which is Max Verstappen good enough to win the World Championship in 2020? Now, I've been really excited to talk about this topic. I know Jordan has. And obviously our guest has. I'll reveal who that is in a minute. So Max Verstappen, since he came into Formula One, has had a few years where he's been up and down, thinking is he going to win the World Championship next year, the last year of his contracted time at Red Bull Racing. He possibly could go for the World Championship, and we are going to talk about is that possible. But before we get into anything, guys, we are going to tell you about our guest we have on the show today with us. This guy is Sean from the F1 Word. We're really privileged to have you on our show. So Sean, welcome to our channel.
No, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. It's nice to be on the other end for a change.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much for being on. We've had a few guests this year. Let's see how this episode goes. Hopefully it is a very good one. Obviously we've got a great topic and obviously a great channel as you have yourself. Jordan is nothing special. He's on every episode as normal. So yes, Max Verstappen, as I've just said there, came into Toro Rosso and instantly had a special name for himself. This guy was going to go so far in Formula One. He was the youngest guy. I think he was the youngest guy ever to get in Formula One. Now that the rules have changed, no one can actually beat how young Max Verstappen got into Formula One. A good season with Toro Rosso. I remember one of the most famous moves that he did was on his teammate Carlos Sainz back then in Toro Rosso, where he took him around Blanchimont corner in Spa 2015. A few little things like that in that year. Also becoming the youngest point scorer in Australia 2015, which was his first race with the team. Just made that Max was going to be a big prodigy in Formula One. 3 races into 2016, you had Danny Fiat at Red Bull Racing, obviously my team. Max Verstappen at Toro Rosso. There was a lot of talk behind the scenes about swapping those around after Danny Fiat's pretty torpedo-ish move, as it was called, at the Russian Grand Prix. For the Spanish Grand Prix, round 5. It was known that Max Verstappen was going to swap places with Danny Fiat. Max was going to go to Red Bull. This guy who's had one season at Toro Rosso. It was massive. We made an episode and the community just absolutely blew up about it. It's still actually being talked about to this day. Train places what actually went on. So Danny Fiat go back to Toro Rosso, but Max was at Red Bull. That race was a very special one for him. He was already had all the media, all the cameras. It was whatever he finished in that race was going to be a special one. But he had to go forward and he had to do the impossible. When both Mercedes crashed out, he went and won the race. He became the youngest winner at 18.5 years old in Formula One. That record will never be beaten, and became a race winner. I even remember recording the review with Jordan going ballistic, becoming a proper Verstappen fanboy. Now, of course, that season was just up and down for him. He did take a later win in that year, but the next race after Spain, he crashed out in Monaco, so it was a turbulent time for Max.
Yeah.
Some people were thinking he was going to have an amazing career. Some people thought he was going to be future world champion, and some people were sitting, ish. And I think I was as well. I was thinking Danny Fiat, still a good job at Red Bull. I don't know why he was demoted. 2017 and 2018 were the years where Max was really progressing with the team, and then he started this year with a good, strong car. Very consistent, Mr. Consistent. He was always on the podium when the two Mercedes were dominating. Max was always there, 3rd place, sometimes 4th place, really creeping into the points. I think since Mexico last year, he finished in the top 5 from Mexico to I think it was Germany this year. Really, really strong, and obviously took 2 wins at Austria and Germany. Could have had a 3rd in Hungary. Of course, Lewis Hamilton has almost wrapped up his 6th World Championship this year. Will be crowned possibly in Mexico City. But with Max Verstappen heading into 2020, his last contracted year, obviously he's got a 2-year contract at the moment with Red Bull Racing. Dr. Helmut Marko has said that Max Verstappen is going to be 2020 World Champion. I think that is an amazing prospect to do, mainly because my team is back on top. Obviously, the last time we won a Constructors was obviously 2013 with Sebastian Vettel. Sebastian Vettel and Mark Webber obviously pulling the team to a Constructor, and obviously Sebastian getting his fourth World Champion. Ship. Yes, so Max 2020 World Champion. There was a story after Austria that we tackled that said that that Max was better than Lewis. Max was the best driver in Formula One. That was said by the team principal Christian Horner. 2020 World Champion Max Verstappen with Red Bull. Now I'm going to kick this off with my thoughts and say that Max is such a strong driver, and if he was in the Mercedes, yes. If he had the best car on the grid, yes, he is a strong, reluctant driver. He has the determination to win. But as we've seen since 2014, obviously Mercedes have got the best car on the grid. So it's not going to be an easy feat for him. But with all the backing behind him, I think that he'll have a good run at it. Now, of course, Max Verstappen was running third in the World Championship for a long time. He was knocked off a few races ago, of course, by Charles Leclerc, who took over third position. Actually tied, I think, heading before the Russian Grand Prix. So it was a good run by him. Obviously, everything reset in Australia, and he will go again with Red Bull. Now, Sean, I'm going to kick this episode off with you. Max Verstappen, a massive prodigy. I don't know how much of a Max Verstappen fan you are, but I am. Jordan he went ballistic at one point. I think he's used all of his points up by now. 2020 World Champion. Is this possible? And do you think so? Or do you think it will be back to Mercedes and it'll be a hard struggle for him?
I've got such a difficult relationship with Max Verstappen. I think he's brilliant. I think he's a fantastic racing driver, a lot of potential. Still so young. Doesn't it feel like I've been talking about him for about a decade?
Yeah.
But he's still 22.
It feels like a veteran of Formula One.
Yeah.
But
I'm sort of talking and thinking, does he need to win the World Championship next year? No, because he's got so many years left in the sport. But I think he'll want to. I kind of look at Charles Leclerc, this other young prodigy that's coming in, because for so long now, everyone's been saying, who's going to be the next new Formula One World Champion? And I don't know about you guys, but it always seems to be Max Verstappen. That's the name that's always cropping up. All of a sudden, we've got Charles Leclerc coming through, who is threatening that. And I think Max is going to be pretty desperate to win it next year. But I don't think next year is going to be his year. I think it's going to be between Mercedes and Ferrari again. But it's an important year for Max next year, because if they can't give him the car and Honda can't give him the power unit, you've got Vettel, you've got Bottas, you've got Hamilton all out of contract. He's going to look elsewhere. So next year is maybe not for the championship, but for his future with Red Bull, an absolutely huge year for him, in my opinion. Red Bull have got to get it right, otherwise he could walk. And that's a huge loss. But I'd like him to. Fanboy alert. But I'd quite like him to win the World Championship next year, but I don't personally think he will. I think it is Mercedes versus Ferrari again. If I can say again, is it really again?
It is now, I suppose. Like now it is,
Yeah.
but it was supposed to be. But it's Ferrari. It's really been Hamilton versus Vettel to a certain extent, hasn't it? It hasn't really been Ferrari and Mercedes, but at least that we're getting some sort of battle now. My kind of view on Verstappen is I like him as a driver. He's really, really quick. He's really, really talented. He's got a lot in him for Formula One. He's got a big future ahead of him, like you said, Sean. I think one of the reasons why people are saying, and especially Helmut Marko is saying he wants him to win in 2020, is so Verstappen will become the youngest ever world champion. He's only got 2 years to do it. He's got this year and he's got next year. In 2021, Vettel will still hold that record, and Red Bull want Verstappen to be the prodigy of Formula One. They want him to be the next big thing, if you like. And of course, they've looked after him since, I think he signed in 2014. I think it was around then, and then he obviously moved to Toro Rosso for 2015. So Helmut Marko will want him to have all them records, and hold them till kingdom come, really, if you like, because Verstappen will always be the youngest the youngest driver to ever enter in Formula One. Well, I think he will be anyway. But I don't think at this moment in time, I don't think Honda will give Red Bull enough power or a good enough power unit to go on to win a world championship. Has Verstappen got the speed? Absolutely, he's got the ability to do so. But we haven't really seen Verstappen under a world championship kind of pressure situation, and whether he can hold his head for, let's say, 20, 21, 22 races to go from the start to the end, battling for that world championship, whether he can keep that consistency going, not just for the car reliability wise, it's all about Verstappen. Can he handle the pressure and not make any silly mistakes. Like he went on that superb run, didn't he, from 2018 into 2019, not finishing any lower than P5. It was brilliant. And then he makes a rather silly amateur rookie mistake in Spa. And then that's when everyone was like, I think that's when like the guard kind of turned between, oh, Verstappen he's the next big thing, and everyone loved him, to then Leclerc all of a sudden was like, oh no, wait, he's going to be the next big thing. And Verstappen's just been like forgotten about until he starts winning in probably Mexico. I would say then Red Bull will start winning the end of winning races towards the end of the season, and then Verstappen's looked upon. But I really can't see Verstappen winning next season. I really can't. As like you said, Sean, Mercedes will be up there. Ferrari, whether there will be or not, I really don't know. It's like will they or won't they? Because we all thought they were going to be this year, they weren't. So whether they can be next year or not, I think Red Bull might surprise us. They might come up into Melbourne and just dominate the race, dominate the weekend. Who knows? It's Formula One. It's so unpredictable. But as I'm sitting here now, no, I really don't think so. But like, it's like a lot of people are very divided about this as well, because a lot of people are saying Verstappen will never be world champion at all, because that's the way the community is. And some people are saying that Verstappen's going to be a 10-time world champion in the next 10 years or whatever. So it depends how you look at it as well. But for me, as I said, Verstappen, no, he won't win it in 2020. But he will be world champion, I can guarantee that. It's just a case of when and where. But Lyle, do you think Red Bull have the facility? Well, they have got the facilities, but do you think that they could work well with Honda and bring in a good enough power unit to be able to go on to push Verstappen to become world champion?
I really hope so. Now, obviously, with Renault, the reason why Renault had such a good partnership with Red Bull was because of those constructors and world championships. Since then, they wanted to fall out. They didn't like being with Renault engines, but they kind of were, in that grasp of, well, we give you world champions with Seb and the team. Now that they've brought in Honda, I think things are looking up. Obviously, of course, things are looking up from the McLaren days. It was an improvement with Toro Rosso, and it's definitely an improvement with Red Bull. I just don't think that they're the power unit to be world championship worthy again. At the moment, it's been Mercedes, and it always will be. And we even talked about in last week's episode about Mercedes engines the way forward, but they do power Racing Point and they do power Williams, and obviously, of course, it's not. It's a hard one to say. I don't think Red Bull are ready yet. I think there needs to be more work done, but as we know that there is 1 year left of the regulations that we have at the moment, but obviously after 2021 or 2021 and onwards, they change. Maybe Honda can capitalise on that, because when you look back at old Formula 1, teams have actually, the dominant teams are the ones that have capitalised on the changes. Red Bull did when they changed to the V8, the V6 with Mercedes, obviously the change in 2009 was Brawn, Ferrari was the V12. So teams have only dominated when they've actually capitalised, and they've almost found either a loophole or just the best kind of blueprints after a regulation change. So maybe Honda can just work, if Red Bull and Honda work together, maybe they can create a world championship worthy power unit eventually, but I just don't think they'll be able to do it now. At the moment, Red Bull are third best. Ferrari weren't second best probably the first half of the season, but of course after their results in Belgium, Italy and Singapore, they've definitely got a second best. Mercedes are obviously running away with it, so Red Bull you'd probably say third best constructor. At the moment, no, and they're definitely not going to change anything for next year other than improvements. And if they just keep improving, possibly 2023, 2024, they could win. I definitely think they got that, but it's positive their work. They've never been a low down team, but I think their low kind of years, 2014, 2015, 2016 almost, and then after that it's been on a rise. Yes, Renault were quite bad, 2017, 2018, you had retirements. Max actually retired from half the races he started until, I think it was Italy that year. But they've been on a rise in terms of results, and then obviously with Honda now it's got the reliability. I think in the future, in the next few years they could, but they're not going to do enough work to actually get there for next year. But if they get to, let's say they become the second best constructor in 2020, that's an improvement. And then either maybe the first best in 2021, or they can just capitalise and just keep improving. But I just don't think, 2020's just a little bit too early. But that being said though, Helmut Marko, obviously the main guy in the team, he's the one that said Max is a world champion. But kind of switching it away from a world championship perspective, is he, because we've seen the trading places between all the drivers. You know, it's a bit ridiculous, to be honest, when Red Bull when it comes to that, innit? You know, Red Bull have got rid of Fiat for Verstappen. Then they've gone. Obviously they've gone Gasly to Albon now, and then the 3 drivers of Toro Rosso that are still in fighting for this one seat. That's a little bit strange. But Verstappen is untouched. So is the team putting all their eggs in the Verstappen basket? So, for example, John, when we were doing Drivers Decoded Mark Webber, when we said that Sebastian Vettel was Red Bull's only hope, and if Sebastian said jump, the other team would say how high, but they wouldn't for Mark. Is Red Bull now reverting back to the Vettel-esque days where it's all about Verstappen, and that's why they're kind of neglecting their second driver, and they're all bothered about this one guy to get them the result, and then, of course, the World Championship.
Yeah. Sean, do you want to answer that one first before I do?
Well, I was just going to say, going back to your earlier point, Lyle, about next year, I think it's going to be really interesting to see what Red Bull do, because the field, famous last words, should close up with it being sort of evolution rather than revolution. So that could make a big difference, and that could be a great shot for them to compete for that title. But 2021, like you say, is such a huge, potentially huge regulation change that would Red Bull prefer to capitalise on that and then go and dominate for a few years, or get Verstappen that title? And that's going to be really interesting for me. I mean, they're winners, aren't they?
Yeah.
They're going to want to win. They're not going to write off a whole season, but are they going to go and put everything into next year when they know that they could, with Adrian Newey on board, perhaps design a car that could do a Mercedes and I hope not a Mercedes, but do like a Mercedes and dominate for 4, 5, 6 seasons?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm really intrigued by next season, but it's difficult to read, Marco.
Very true.
I don't know if you know from watching my stuff, I don't trust a word he says.
I've even
some ridiculous things, yeah.
I've even quoted some of your things that you said, Sean, about Helmut Marko as well. Like he wouldn't. I say that now, and I've just completely forgot what you actually said. You said something like you wouldn't. Oh my God! What did you say about one of his things? He wouldn't go back on his own. Wouldn't go back on something twice.
He wouldn't swallow his pride twice.
That's the
Something
one.
Like
He wouldn't swallow his pride twice. Yes, I'm even quoting that with other people who don't. Well, who follow F1 but don't follow YouTube as well. So I'm just like, oh, this guy on YouTube said this. Yeah. Anyways, getting off topic. But right, okay then. I think I don't know if we're going back to the whole Vettel Webber kind of era, because like it was a big rivalry, wasn't it, between those two? Vettel was like this young kid, kind of like spoiled brat, if you want to call it that.
But the thing is, though, the team, it's not so much about Mark. It's more that the team, they set up 120 billion. They set up around Vettel. It was all Vettel. Vettel could control the team, and with that, almost the team kind of neglected Mark a little bit, and that's kind of what they're doing, isn't it now? Because Albon and it's kind of like they're not bothered about the second driver, but they're not. It's all about Verstappen. When you think about just quickly, John, before you went, sir. When you think about Red Bull, and you can, stop me off if I sound wrong, but when you talk about Red Bull, like when you talk about Mercedes, it's obviously those two drivers. Even though I say Verstappen, Lewis Hamilton is of course the 5-time world champion. I was about to say 6.
Well,
we're about to say that in a few hours.
This is good as.
Yeah, exactly.
Lewis Hamilton's the 5-time world champion, and we still think that Valtteri Bottas is in that team, which he is. Ferrari, again, Sebastian Vettel, Charles Leclerc, they're probably more on the same level. You would mention those equally, but when it comes to Red Bull, you never really mention the other driver. It's always Verstappen. And for that reason, that's why I can kind of see it, when I see other YouTubers and us and things like that, when people mention Red Bull and they're just all about Verstappen, I'm like, there we go, you've answered my question almost, that the team is just Verstappen based and everyone's got all their eggs in the basket, including Helmut Marko, and it's never about the second driver. So John, do you think that that's what happened with Vettel, and do you think that's what Red Bull are doing right now?
Well, Red Bull know what kind of a driver they've got in their ranks at the moment. A good, very good, quick driver who, like we said before, it can become world champion. The reason probably why, Verstappen is the face of Red Bull without a doubt. I think hence probably one of the reasons why Ricciardo left was that he didn't get caught up in the whole Verstappen kind of backing, if you like. And Webber kind of probably stayed around for a bit too long and probably got caught up in that. He was like, well, I'm not moving. Why would I move? Like, I just imagine Mark Webber just sitting in the Red Bull HQ just being like, I'm not moving for him. But it's like Ricciardo being like, I'll get out your way now. But like obviously the number 2 driver, I think the reason why they're kind of humming and hawing as to who to choose is for the constructors, because they need a driver who not so much challenging Max, but just collecting up as many points as they possibly can to like get as many points, obviously to go on to win, to try and win the constructors, because that's what they want to do. They want to win, world championship, well, drivers and constructors world championships as well. And they probably don't want to be in a position where both their drivers are battling for the world championship. They've never really had that. Have they? I mean, Webber to a certain extent in 2010, but that was when Red Bull were just new to the up front, weren't they? In 2012 was really Webber wasn't, well, he was all right, but he wasn't really there or thereabouts, was he? So Red Bull, will definitely be batting for Verstappen for the world championship, but the other driver, in a way, is just like a kind of like a backup, is to just hoover up as many points as he possibly can. And Gasly wasn't doing that, so it was like, well, he's not good for the future, then, is he? Let's get someone else in. But they need to sort that out. I really do believe that they need to stop chopping and changing the drivers, because let's face it, Red Bull were never going to win the constructors or even the world championship anyway. So get Gasly ready for the following season. I even said this as well for ages. Keep Gasly for a season, get him in for next year, and if he doesn't perform, get him out. I don't know why they didn't do that. They're just making that inconsistent level of, who's going to be there, who's going to be there and who's not. And I know Verstappen says he's not bothered, but you will want a teammate who he can share data with, you can share whatever with. And I know Red Bull and Toro Rosso are more or less the same team and stuff, but like Vettel will. I keep saying bloody Vettel. Verstappen will want a teammate that he can work with closely, and then Red Bull will want a good team behind them. It's good, with 2 drivers that they can trust that can go on to win races. But I think another thing as well, right? I want to get onto in a bit, and I'll ask you guys now. If Vettel, you know what it is. You know what it is. Because I tell you what, right?
Words, that's why.
Exactly, because I'm used to Vettel Red Bull. Because I do believe he'll go back to. I do believe Vettel will go back to Red Bull. But that's for another story, another video.
Cool.
So let's say Verstappen doesn't win the world championship, like we're all saying, it's a bang average season. He's got a podium here, a couple of race wins here and there, and he goes, right, I've had enough. I don't want to be here. Who does he go to? Who do you think he would actually end up being at? And I know there's probably one team in particular you guys will say, but is there a glimmer of hope, maybe at some point in the future, if that move doesn't work out, of him going to that other team, or even another team who's in the ranks, or have a potential to go to be at the front of the field? And one of them is my boys McLaren, or even like the likes of Renault Racing Point. They're rumoured to be possibly up there with Lawrence Stroll's money about. Where would Max go? Sean, I'll start with you. If Verstappen doesn't work out at Red Bull, where's he off to?
Mercedes.
Seriously.
Yeah. 2 or 3 years ago, I was absolutely adamant. Before I even had the channel, I was ranting at people that really don't care about F1, but they had to listen because I was ranting. I was absolutely adamant that Ferrari would be desperate to get Max Verstappen in that car. But now they've got Leclerc, and they can see what he can do and the potential he's got. And, he's made mistakes this year, and he's still got a lot to learn, but he's delivering. I don't think Ferrari would ever partner Verstappen and Leclerc, and I don't think they'll let Leclerc go. So that only leaves Mercedes, and I think possibly more out of hope than expectation, I would like to see Hamilton and Verstappen at Mercedes in 21. Mm-hmm. I think that would be epic, absolutely epic. Yeah. But other than, I can't see him going to McLaren. I quite like him to go there, kind of help to bring them back to the front. I think that'd be brilliant, but I think they've got their Norris, they've got their Lando. They don't really want to maybe bring him in. I'm sure they'd love to have him, but I don't think he's going to want to go backwards. He's only want to go forward. Yeah. He's kind of done that very briefly done that midfield thing with Toro Rosso, hasn't he? He wants to be at the front of the grid, and I can't see him going backwards. So it's Mercedes or Red Bull. And what do Mercedes do, I guess, is the question. Russell's waiting in the wings. They've still got an Ocon somewhere. There's a Wehrlein wrapped up somewhere else, I think, possibly not in part of the Mercedes program. They've got so many drivers. Yeah, exactly. Going to pick.
That's the problem as well. I think that's causing me a bit of a headache, because I'm like, right, okay, it's easy to go, right, okay, Verstappen to Mercedes, that is probably, that's going to happen. I've been saying that as well. But what I have been saying, though, is that the more to be fair as well, all that's just released a video about half an hour before we went on air, and I watched it and I'm like, oh, you've changed my mind again, because I was going, Hamilton will go to Ferrari. I honestly did believe that for a while. I did believe that, but then he's saying in the media that he doesn't want to go to Ferrari. And he's been with Mercedes since he was what, 12, 13-year-old. Once I seen that, I went, he won't leave now. So I'm like, Bottas to leave, but then Hamilton and Verstappen in the same team. Oof, do Mercedes want that headache? Because both them won't want to be number 2 driver, and they've got a perfect number 2 driver in Bottas. So Russell in there as well, Verstappen and Russell.
See, I think Hamilton back to McLaren is more likely than Hamilton to Ferrari. Honestly.
I hate Hamilton.
Unlikely.
Hamilton to Ferrari is the one that annoys me the most, because that will never, ever, ever happen. We will get to 1 million subscribers before Hamilton actually goes to that. That one's the one that, I can't take that. Hamilton to Formula E or back to Formula 3 is more likely than Hamilton to Ferrari.
That's the title.
That's the soundbite for your next channel trailer.
It is as well. Hamilton to Formula E or Formula 3. That was pretty snappy, that, Lyle.
Thank you. I do.
Because the reason I say this is, like, to be fair, I've got this little triangle on the go, which I've got Vettel back to Red Bull, Verstappen to Mercedes, and Hamilton to Ferrari. The most likely one out of the trio is, Verstappen to Mercedes. Vettel to Red Bull is like yeah, I could see that happening. But obviously the Hamilton to Ferrari is just me being ambitious. I don't believe it. I don't believe it would happen now, like as much as what I did probably about a couple of weeks ago. But I want that to happen. I really do. I want it to happen. Do I think it will happen? I don't know. It's Formula One. Anything can happen.
Is that Verstappen to Mercedes?
Yeah, Verstappen to Mercedes to replace Hamilton.
I think to replace Hamilton.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I don't know. I mean, obviously Hamilton was going to retire at some point, but with Hamilton, is that they say that he's in the prime of his career and he's never going to leave, and of course he's not going to. He's going to beat Michael Schumacher's record of wins. He's going to possibly beat Michael Schumacher's record in World Championships. So he's not going to leave. Not at all. I like Verstappen and Hamilton. I do think that's a possibility. To be honest, so I totally agree with you, Sean. You said it, it was almost like it was my word that you said it. Great minds think alike, obviously, because I do think that, Hamilton in Verstappen at Mercedes. Another reason why he wouldn't go to Ferrari, not so much that they wouldn't want those two partnering together. I just can't see that happening. So when Verstappen came into Red Bull, there was a lot of talk about Jos Verstappen that said, if Red Bull don't offer Max a contract, we're going to go to Ferrari. And apparently there was a lot of bite back about that, and then kind of, behind the scenes arguing between Red Bull and Ferrari, like, who offered Verstappen a contract and things like that. And Verstappen said that he wouldn't. No, was it? He didn't say that he wouldn't go to Ferrari, but he kind of unofficially said that he wouldn't go to Ferrari. And I just can't see it. But then also, that being said, because they've got Leclerc in and Vettel, who again is not going to budge as easy as people think. Then if Verstappen's at Mercedes, that means you've got the battle of the older guys, which is Hamilton, Vettel. Then you've got the battle of the new guys, which is the younger guys, which is Verstappen, Leclerc. Because at the moment you might have Hamilton and Vettel catching up to Hamilton, but still Hamilton on another level. But then you've got Leclerc, and then Bottas is absolutely nowhere. He started the year, so strong. Australia, incredible race. That was even a race, where he proved a lot of doubters wrong. And then Baku, one of my favourite races, if not my best race of Valtteri Bottas. And then since then, it's just been such a drop of him, in races and wins, and no fire in him. And again, like what I said in the preview show of Japan, he has turned back to the 2018 second drive of Valtteri James kind of thing, and that's obviously not good for him. There's only one space of somebody who can win, but he's not even really challenging for it. He's rolling over for Hamilton, and when the Ferraris are coming through, which obviously they have in the last 3 races, there's just not been any fight from him. So maybe they do look to replace him in the future. Maybe he goes somewhere else in Formula 1. And again, that's probably the only person I can see kind of the seat being vacant for Verstappen, because, as a lot of people say, Sebastian Vettel is going to leave Ferrari. Again, I actually can't see that, because even though we're giving him a lot of stick because he's not doing very well, he is at that team. He's loved by the team. He's in that Ferrari material. He's only been there since 2015, but he's really embedded into Ferrari. Again, I can't see him leaving. So I do think that the best thing to do, which is again what Sean said, which is for him to go and replace Bottas. Obviously, Hamilton will stay. I can imagine Hamilton being in for another 7 years. There's no reason Hamilton would leave at all. Period. And then, as I say, Verstappen will partner Hamilton. Will battle Leclerc because how great would that be? You got Sebastian Vettel and Lewis Hamilton, the old guys battling. Then you've got Verstappen and Leclerc, the young guys battling, and that is a battle that is highly regarded for the next few seasons. But there's one thing I just wanted to quickly mention though, Jordan. I was saying that to you before. Is Verstappen is only 22. All the drivers, most of the drivers now are coming in and they're so young. And I was even saying that Verstappen could be in Formula 1 till 2040, and he'll only be 42, 43 that year. So why does he have to win the world championship? I think Sean said this as well. Why does he have to win the world championship next year? He's got so much time. And also, why does he have to rush a move? So Jordan, I'm going to start with you this time. In terms of Verstappen and his career, why do you think that it's about winning the world championship next year, which will be his 6th season in Formula 1, I believe, when he's only 20, he'll be 22 going on 23 next year. And then if he doesn't win, he'll go to Mercedes, which he's still in his young 20s. Why do you think there's such a rush? Can't he just, because he's going to have another strong 20 years in Formula 1. So why do you think it has to be like now or never? Can't he just take a bit of time to get there get there in Formula 1?
I think, well, like I said before, the whole Helmut Marko thing that he wants Verstappen to become the youngest ever world champion because he's part of Red Bull, the Red Bull program. And like I said, after 2021, he won't be able to do that anymore. He'll be the second youngest or the third youngest or whatever, which obviously Red Bull won't want for him anyway. But Verstappen will want a championship. But I think the reason why he's looking like the whole looking beyond, next season, if you like, is because he's only got 1 year left on his contract with Red Bull after this one, and Verstappen will want to be in a team where he knows he can become world champion. Now, if he doesn't genuinely believe Red Bull can give him a championship in 5 years, he will look elsewhere. And I think we are jumping the gun saying, all right, he has to win next year. I don't think he has to win next year. I think with people claiming that, it's just ridiculous. It's really only Helmut kind of pushing that forward, if you like. But like Verstappen doesn't want to be at Red Bull if he's just going to be, I don't know, P3, P4 in the standings every season, and then by the age of 26, 27, if he's still, 15, 20 wins, he's just an average driver who, he had the talent at the start, and now he's just, no one even sees him like that anymore. And then we'll have our eye on someone else coming through the ranks. I mean, God help us the day Mick Schumacher comes into the sport. Bloody hell, you think this is bad? Wait until he comes in. Eh, my word. Verstappen will certainly be looking into the future, and I think really at this present time, if there is a team to give him a world championship in the next 5 years, I would say Mercedes, definitely without a doubt. But 2021 is brings in regulations, and if he likes what Red Bull are doing, he will stay and stick around and give it a chance. And if it doesn't work out, let's say up until 2022, 2023, he'll see what his options are and go from there. Because I can't imagine Hamilton being there until 2023. I mean, at this moment in time, I can't. It's just a case of all the ifs and buts at the moment. It's just that. And also, just going back as well, what you said about the whole Bottas Mercedes thing as well, Lyle. The reason why, I know that they'll have two good drivers in Verstappen and Hamilton in the team, but let's say you have a Russia 2018 situation. Valtteri, it's James. I hate that saying, but never mind. It's overused, overdone. But anyways, so yes, Max, it's James. Move over for Hamilton. Do you think he will? No. I really don't think he will. Verstappen, and then you've got that big headache, haven't you? Of he's not moving for me, and I'm not moving for him. You probably have multi-21 all over again. Something even worse in that, and Hamilton will still have the ability and the determination to go on to win another championship. So let's say like Verstappen is like the driver to replace Hamilton. They need another number two driver, which is the headache. Do they keep Bottas, or do they have a chance to bring George Russell? Because if you go George, it's James. That's a tongue twister. George, it's James. Move over for Max. He will happily do so, and that's the thing that's getting me about the whole. I know you got two good drivers, but Formula One it's a totally different game. It's all about strategy. It's all about team orders now. It's not the sport it was 5-10 years ago, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And that's what Mercedes will be thinking. And then that's when, if Hamilton wants to stay in the sport, whether he wants to be partnered with, I mean, they could say, look at Hamilton, you play number 2. Do I think he'll do that? No, I honestly don't. He might go to Ferrari, partner Leclerc. And then again, thinking about it, he might not, and hence why sending Vettel back to Red Bull. But Vettel might walk away from the sport altogether. But never mind. Sean, just touching on what Lyle said before. What's your overall thoughts on that?
I think on Bottas, how many chances are they going to give him? I mean, I was really hard on him in the winter, and I don't take any of that back. He wasn't good enough back end of last year. Started off, like Lyle was saying, absolutely incredible. This whole Bottas 2.0 thing, and it's like, yes, finally, come on, Valtteri, prove me wrong. Show us what you've got. And he's doing that, and then all of a sudden he just falls away. So there's going to come a point where Mercedes, sort of going on your point there, whatever happens in 2021, do they give him another year in this regulation change? Are they going to look at it and think, all right, he's experienced, but he's been letting us down, but we'll give him one more chance? Or do they say, look, we've given you your opportunities, mate, and you're not delivering. We've got to let you go and bring somebody in that's hungry, that's going to... I think, personally, next year, Russell would probably do a better job in that car as a number 2 for Hamilton. Not that Bottas isn't doing a great job as a number 2. But yeah, I just think... I really thought he was going to leave Mercedes this year, even though I don't agree that he should have done. I actually think he's done well enough this year to warrant maybe one more season, but they can't keep giving him other chances. Yeah. But on Verstappen, if Hamilton leaves that team, Mercedes will go all out for Max Verstappen. There's no doubt whatsoever. It's kind of, you've touched on it there, Jordan. It's that, do they want to take the risk of another Rosberg Hamilton? Do they want to go down the Senna-Prost route with Verstappen and Hamilton? If Hamilton leaves, 100% Verstappen will be in that Mercedes, probably with Russell alongside him, maybe Ocon. Verstappen, Ocon, maybe not, I don't know. But I do not see... It's really hard. I'm kind of...
Yeah.
My head's telling me that if I was in Toto's position, there's no bloody way I would ever put them two together, but then my heart is saying, how good would it be to see Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton take each other on? Hamilton coming to the end of his career, Verstappen really still at the start of his. I just want to see that. But on this whole World Championship for next year, I said at the start, I don't think he needs to. The thing is, I think he thinks he's ready. And I think a lot of people watching him would probably argue, I don't know how you two feel, that he is probably just about ready, because he has... This last 12 months, he's a completely different guy to the driver that was putting it in the wall or into somebody else every weekend for the first 7 races in 2018. So I would say he's ready for it, and if he's ready for it, then go for it.
What I'm gonna say, just off the back of that, Sean, what I want to say is, Verstappen, he's only contract till next year, of course. We already said that, and there is a possibility that he will go somewhere else, but if he wins a World Championship next year, of course, there's 2 things that I want to say. First thing is, of course, if you win a World Championship, the chances of you staying with that team are obviously massive.
Oh, yeah.
Because he will most likely be leading the World Championship or very high up or contender, and then they'll re-sign him, and then, of course, he will. But even if he leaves at the end of next year, but he's won the World Championship, for Red Bull, for my team, it will help us so much, because it will show that we are there, we're strong, and we're stronger to show that we haven't just dominated in one era. Because when a team dominates, so for example, when the regulations change, and a team that wasn't very good before that dominates in very much, actually, Mercedes, right? Mercedes, in the V8 era, they weren't that good. They were on the rise in 2013, but they weren't very good. V6s came in, they've dominated. And then there's another change, and then they're not very good anymore. When the V8s came in, when the regulation change came in, it was 2010, or 2009, the Red Bull really capitalised on that. And then when it all changed back to the V6 turbo era, I know then 2014 was a terrible year. Then it's been just up and down for Red Bull, but they haven't been the championship constructed like they were. If Renault, this was with Renault, but if Honda come in, which they have, Verstappen wins the championship with Honda, which, let's say he does in this situation, but then let's say he goes to Mercedes straight off, it'll then show that we are strong enough to say, right, we've won a World Championship with Renault, and now we've won a World Championship with Honda, and we are a very versatile team. We can do it with 2 engines, and obviously, of course, Honda, and as an engine, because they're very predominant in Formula 1. For example, case in point, we're going to Japan this weekend. this race actually is, you could just, once you think of Suzuki, you think of Honda, don't you? So again, if Red Bull win the championship with Honda, it will show Honda and the sport, and obviously Red Bull themselves, that they're capable of doing it. The back, they're still a strong team. Because at the moment, when you think of Red Bull, they came in, they had the party mode switched up to 1,000,000. They had this very smug driver in Sebastian Vettel, won the championships, and then after that, it's all like sailing off into the sunset. If Verstappen wins again, it'll kind of show that Red Bull are now, they're a team that are building a pedigree in Formula One. Because at the moment, 4 World Championships, I think that's strong. But they did it in a row, a few years into their careers, and then now there's nothing mentioned about it again. So I'm like, it's still a bit of a party team.
Yeah.
Do you get what I mean, guys?
Yeah.
It's still a bit of a party team. It's still a bit of a not a one-shot wonder, but like a 4-shot wonder. I still don't think that Red Bull are as strong as Ferrari, for example, in terms of the pedigree and the history. Even Mercedes, obviously, they're going for 6. It's 6 more than 4, but I still don't think of Red Bull having the pedigree in Formula One. But if Verstappen wins next year, will it help Red Bull in their overall kind of drive in Formula One? Because then you'll remember Red Bull's pedigree, and it'll improve them as a long-term constructor in Formula One, like you think of the Williams and the Ferraris and the McLarens and even the Mercedes now in Formula One. So Sean, just quickly going back to you, if he wins, if Verstappen wins the World Championship next year, who do you think will be kind of praised on the most? Will it be Verstappen, or will it be Red Bull, or will it be Honda? Red Bull, obviously, the team that gave Seb the wins. Honda, obviously, they're back on top. Obviously, after their amazing success, with Ayrton Senna and all that in the late 80s. Or will it be Max Verstappen, obviously the Dutch guy that everyone, basically Holland, went ballistic when he came into Formula One? Who do you think will kind of be the main guy, the main person out of winning the World Championship?
In the Netherlands, Max Verstappen, 100%. I think it'd be a mix of. I think the Honda story would be incredible. I think a lot of people would love that. But I think it would be Verstappen, because I suppose it would depend what his teammate does. If he wins the World Championship and his teammate's 200 points behind him, then that's the Verstappen effect, isn't it? He's come in and he's made the difference, which is what we see at Mercedes year in, year out at the moment. The Hamilton effect. He is the one that makes the difference at that team, which is why it's not always just the car. But that's a story for another day. We'll get into that argument another time. But yeah, with Verstappen, he's making the difference, and I think he would get the praise for that 100%. But I'm gonna try not to break your heart here, Lyle. But my concern for Red Bull is if they don't win the championship next year, or don't compete for the championship, or don't give Verstappen a good car and he leaves, what do they do then? Because they've lost their marquee driver, the one that is their future, and they're left with all due respect to them, Albon, Kvyat and Gasly.
I want to maybe throw a bit of a spanner in the works with this one. Right, so cast your mind to 2021. Hamilton leaves the sport altogether. Verstappen has a average year at Red Bull, and then goes to Mercedes. And then Mercedes are going, okay, what do we do for that number 2 seat? Like what you said before, Sean, did they keep Bottas for another year, or did they promote George from Williams straight to Mercedes? Which, let's be fair, it's a big jump. And Red Bull are left with 3 drivers they've cast aside almost, well, Albon not so much, but he did leave the programme, then come back. So on the subject of that, do you think that Red Bull will go back for Sainz, take Sainz from McLaren, and Mercedes, because of the deal, will send George to McLaren to partner alongside Lando?
Oh, I could see Red Bull going for Lando. They were already interested anyway last year with Toro Rosso. I could see them going for that. What if Sainz wins a title in a McLaren before Verstappen does in a Red Bull? You're
literally right. You. I think let's say like in 2021, for example, 2020, Verstappen wins the World Championship, and then in 2021, Sainz will win the championship with McLaren. You'll have Honda sticking their fingers up in McLaren, and Sainz sticking their fingers up at Red Bull. I can just see that now at like Abu Dhabi, just like everyone sticking their fingers up at each other, and just causing like absolute havoc. That would be sensational though if Sainz actually does win a World Championship at that team. But the thing is, alright. I think Red Bull, they might go for Lando because they did try when he was part of the McLaren Junior team. But I think they'll might be more protective over Lando than over Carlos. I think Carlos has links there. I mean, he might go, well, no, you had your chance, no way. But then he might go at the same time. He might go, you know what, better team now. They're giving me a chance. I might go now. It's like leaving your girlfriend or your partner and just going, right, okay, we're done. 5 years later, you're with someone else, and you go, oh, you know what? Yeah, I might get back with you. They get back together, and then who knows what might happen? What might happen from there? Weird analogy, I know, but yeah, never mind. So, yeah, I don't know where I was going with that, but yeah, that's a perfect example. Sticking fingers up and breaking it with X's, yeah, brilliant. Don't do that. So yeah, I think, but at the same time, I do honestly now I do believe that Red Bull will try and go back for Vettel, and McLaren will keep their 2 drivers. That's what I personally believe now. But now, without all this talk, your mind is just wandering. Your head's absolutely fried because of this. There's just so many possibilities, so many things that could happen. We need like another 4 teams on the grid to calm us down, because literally my head's battered.
Oh yeah, the 2021 driver market will drive you mad, but from a YouTuber perspective, it is absolutely brilliant. The content writes itself.
It is sensational. In fact, just on a quick note, it was the 2018 driver market was one of the reasons why we came back to this. We had a bit of a break. We came back to this because of the whole Ricciardo to Renault thing. It was one of the biggest bombshells I've ever seen. It was just like what? Who saw that coming? And you know, who knows? I might have another break and it might come back. I don't know. Hamilton to Williams, and then that will be something. But that won't happen. That won't happen.
Yeah, exactly. My final thoughts, it's going to be hard. It's going to be tricky, especially if Mercedes are dominant, you know, like they have been this year. But if they're not, you know, you might have a good chance to do it. But obviously that's for another episode. Anyway, guys, that is the end of our very long episode. Thank you very much for watching. Obviously, leave your comments in the leave it in the comments section below. What you think about this? Do you think Verstappen will win the championship? Do you think he won't win the championship next year? If you're Dutch, you'll probably say yes. So make sure to say what country you're from as well, because if you say yes, we will assume that you are from Holland. So yes, let us know, and obviously if you let us know also what team you think he'll go to if he doesn't win the World Championship, and will he go next? Just everything that we've been seeing in the episode. Thank you very much to our special guest Sean. I really appreciate you being on. Sean, final thing from you. Any final thoughts today?
I'm just looking forward to 2021. This driver market's going to be mad. But yeah, I just thank you very much for having me on, guys. It's been a pleasure, and like I said, it's nice to be on the other side, and maybe I can reciprocate at some point. That was a bit cryptic, wasn't it? But not very cryptic.
That would be nice. And also, if you haven't already, I will be surprised if you haven't. But if you haven't, go and subscribe to Sean's channel. His links will be in the description below. And if you haven't subscribed to his channel, I'll be very surprised. Just surpassed 80k subscribers as well. So congratulations, Sean, on surpassing 80,000 subscribers recently. So yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
No problem.
Yeah, exactly. It would be amazing to get to 80,000. We'll take that. We'll stick with 1,000. We have said 1,000 before the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, so thank you very much for that. Hopefully we'll get to that. Thank you very much for all of our subscriptions, of course. If you'd like to enter our prediction league, make sure to head over to Twitter with all the information on there. F1DS, something like that, yeah. It's all in there. Obviously, make sure to stay subscribed to us for all of our brand new content. We're on the road to 1,000, of course. Thank you very much for watching this episode, and until next time, guys, we'll see you later.
See you later, guys.